Thank you very much for having me here. It's a real honor to be speaking at Earth Commons and to be back in Berkeley, the home of my alma mater. So it's a special thrill for me. I have to first off say thank you to Gregory Landaway for that amazing presentation and the progress that Regen Network has made, and also recognize that Cerulean Ventures exists because of Regen Network and Regen Foundation's contribution and support of our work, along with a group called One Small Planet, which is another amazing funder in the space. Our objective is to bring the economic power of more traditional venture capital into world and into the harmony with nature and funding nature. So I'm going to speak a little bit about that today, and I think I'll also take this microphone just to make it a bit easier. So I'm Matthew Stotts. Cerulean Ventures, as you kind of heard described, basically model of with nature investments. I've been building the blockchain space myself for 6 years or so, and working primarily with teams that are building technology for a high scale. So today, I just wanted to talk about funding for Earth Commons. How do we get here, and where do we get here? What do we need to actually make this work to bring capital to? I put a thesis for this talk, which is that foreign capital, all of the data and information systems that you heard about today. We looked at that amazing project in Ecuador with the jaguars, and you saw video collars and camera monitoring, as well as the systems for human coordination and for people to collaborate. All of that technology creates information form. So, but historically, this information out here, we haven't had data at scale. We haven't had really good data on biodiversity, but we're experiencing that explosion now. Just in the last 5 years, the amount of Earth information data openly available to everyone building in technology is climatological data and information about our ecology. So with that, I asked the question, how can we use this information arbitrage, as is kind of the investor's mindset? Now that I know something, how can I act on it and do that with so if we look across, we obviously are challenged in really significant ways, and all of the challenges that we have being brought in higher and higher resolution through the data and information. We also have a massive funding gap on climate. The capital we need to stay anywhere close within planetary bounds by 2050 is into the and this across during planning a project that's really in fact found $1 million companies in just corporate debt. This is a traditional to operate your business. Every one of these companies is doing something positive for the planet. That's climate focused or positive for the planet. But contrary to that, we actually are seeing significant amounts of food. So I'm going to pause here to just talk about why this talk is both for investors, but also hopeful for those who are building. The capital is because the resolution of data, the amount of information we have, we can do that's effective. It's starting to increase capital flows in a significant way. This is the green bond market, which is broad for sustainable bonds. They don't quite have the focus they need. We look at this little fan key at the bottom where they're really the items we like to see funded, like the Regen Network projects, like the nature-based carbon that the folks from Celo were talking about earlier. We have so this is like really because we treat nature like it's that we can just keep. But now that we again get to understand what these costs are, if you take in the the production of food or the use of land for food and timber. Literally $20 trillion in output here, but there's real cost. So we're still making far more than is sustainable, but we're getting higher and higher. Where those costs are coming from, that means we have solutions that we can invest in to turn that. And it's not. We have a $100 trillion. I'm using all the standard mechanisms and measure. We have a $100 trillion global GDP, how it's measured in value annually. 33 trillion more in ecosystem services that we are just now how to value, how to count, how to measure, and how to. So when I talk to the investor, the massive opportunity to bring capital to these solutions. That's a 25% of the economy, if you will, that is big. It isn't valued properly. And our belief is working in alignment with nature, with the right data information systems, with the right communities, we can actually do this for the outcomes that we're looking for. And it's really interesting here to see like that where it's being invested in true nature positive projects. What's happening to make this work to our so we're starting to see some regulatory pressure, which is helpful. You've got the task force for nature-related disclosures, which is the task force for climate-related financial disclosures, which had 1,700 of the largest corporate financial institutions on board their exposure to climate risk. Now we're seeing a similar movement just launched last year at Climate Week in New York to bring the impact of nature, the cost of nature onto the balance sheet. So we're starting to count those below the line that are created by our industrial. This is kind of a little bit of the stats. Europe, as you would expect, is a little bit ahead of us in terms of cooperating and getting their act together. But it is a large. So we'll talk about like what does that mean when we do see new data and information and the health of the planet. We have this global Earth state, and we have community organizations on the ground with. When we also have that regulatory impetus, what should we get out of that? Well, ICE, which is exchange, they own the New York Stock Exchange, which you might know. They're also the largest trader of small hold commodities on the cocoa, coffee, all other small holding commodities are traded in them. Come into a Meridia that we work with. Meridia has the ability to provide very, very granular data on deforestation. So the real challenge here is we've got industrialized, developed economies requiring that we make our products and our consumables more for the environment, better for the planet, and yet we have what's on the back end, the smallhold farmer. So what happened? How do we right technology to make the right? What Meridia has done here is they've actually used a combination of both the Earth observation data, so the ability to rent time satellite over this case of coffee farm with a bunch of small coffee plantations, and then with the community on the ground providing handheld PBS providing other stewardship and guidance in the process, actually map and measure each and every the farmer's plots. Just for those who don't know, a smallhold farmer is sub 10 hectares, relatively small farms, but probably much than farms you visited yourself. Now, because of Meridia, each of these folks now have an address and an asset. They have land title, that's community-based. This has been generationally. Folks have been able to kind of figure out, if you think we're all come together, try to put a puzzle together. Piece A gets mapped, piece C gets mapped, and eventually you start to see how all of the pieces fit together. And so all the folks in the community are able to come together and get, clean lines about what was somebody's ancestral plot. That's super important because you have to be able to track deforestation, child things that the EU is now requiring that ultimately global without putting cost or technology burden on these smaller farmers. So what immediately happens when that happens is into industrial farms, those industrial farms buy petrochemical inputs, they become essentially the problem we're trying to address. So the costs up the chain into the trading network rather than down to the individual farmer, able to make a great impact here. I'll move a little bit more quickly through what we're seeing here. The second factor coming from regulation is that we're not going to be able to make offset claims in certain industries starting in 2026 in Europe. The spread outside because you've got a company like Nestle flying in Europe. We're focused on investing in anti-greenwashing technology, things that things in great detail. So quickly to recap and then talk about, I think, just one example of combining technology to solve the problem. The nature opportunity is significant. Bringing more information about nature into investments can create significant opportunity. That's great for them. But we do need kind of an element of regulation to kickstart some of these opportunities. So what's next? We want a nature positive economy. We've got to build the pieces. Greenwashing, we have to take that on. Real market liquidity for these assets so that you have discoverability of the things that are happening because of action. Those things can then be valued. And then we have to solve the the example of Meridia begins to solve that problem. We have to solve that thousands of times over in so many different places. But each of those, again, are we think, significant opportunities. What's needed? Scientifically proven methodologies to issue environmental assets based on setting, which is taking care of the carbon in your supply chain. To perform a measurement and say, in fact, this occurred. This is accurate. This is very. And then a market to actually trade that. So if we base your region network, as you just heard, a community of peer-reviewed methodologies to issue a credit or an ecological claim about the state of everything. Large as these massive ecosystems we're talking about in Ecuador, to smaller community credit groups working in Kenya, then the ability to actually use Earth state data to measure and validate that. So a company like Renoster is doing that using, in this case, to record their and then a mechanism, this is a marketplace, folks to purchase those credits relative to their own specific supply chain. Be an example of this is a great case from a while back. In that state of that, in this example, Renoster is taking a claim quality and then measurement analysis and showing the fact that the baseline of their score is far lower. It's basically functions like a Moody's or a credit rating type of system. And then a platform to transact. So 80% of the world's biodiversity is literally on 2 continents. Terrestrial biodiversity. We haven't gotten into oceans yet, but significant as well. So asset issuance, we need Earth observation, we need ecological state calculation, the ability to understand the state of it, and ultimately moving last mile. We need to put that QR code, that tag, we got into that community to do that work. But now we're getting capital to flow into. Just to conclude, really feel strongly that climate finance is growing and mature, and it's a significant opportunity. There's a convergence of technology in the reporting frameworks, technology, and of the technologies to drive impactful environmental outcomes with capital, and we're excited to bring that to Cerulean Ventures. Have to acknowledge the folks who contribute and support this work, particularly again, Regen Network and Regen Foundation. It's been a great with that. Thank you.